What's going on, Thunder fans? We are back talking a little more Thunder basketball. I'm Zach.
I'm Craig.
And you are tuned in to Thunder Things with the Thunder Guys. We are the Thunder Guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this. It's a pretty cold Sunday afternoon, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Got the hoodie on,
man. I almost went and put a jacket on, but...
Honestly, I'm wearing my work shirt underneath this, so that's why I still have it on. Yeah, but it is cold, though.
We're not repping Texadelphia on the show until they start throwing some sponsor money our way.
Exactly.
But anyways, we're glad to be here, especially after that game yesterday. Have a little bit of positivity to talk about for our show. But that's neither here nor there. So, got a few things to talk about today. We're going to jump in here as soon as I can get some things rolling on the social medias. But anyways, we hope you guys are having a fine afternoon, whether you're listening on Crossover Radio with a Purpose, or tuned in on Facebook Live, or you're watching/listening at some other time. Thank you. We appreciate you. So, with that being said,
let's talk about these losses.
How's it going, Craig?
It's going.
Yeah, let's take a look back at our week, shall we?
Yeah. Talking about giving up 142 to the Hawks in regulation. That is not an overtime score.
Oh man,
that is 4 12-minute quarters.
I was actually coaching a basketball game at the time, so I did not get to watch this one. But I thought it was a joke. You know what I mean?
It's the real deal, man.
I thought someone was messing with me. They were not.
Nope.
This was what actually happened. And so why don't you give me a little bit of a rundown? You got to enjoy this this beautiful display of athletic sportsmanship.
Basically, the Hawks ran the same play over and over again in the first half.
Was it put the ball in the hoop?
No, it was the pick and roll. And for whatever reason, the best defense in the NBA, a.k.a. the Thunder, could not stop it. No. I don't know why. Guys were switching wrong. It was, I just don't know. I was kind of like, how is this happening right now? I had no words to describe.
Can I tell you some things?
Yeah, go for it.
Without watching the game, I'm going to throw out do some math here. Maybe my sixth sense. Not 2 cents, my sixth sense, because I've got a few different points here. The thing is, yes, the Thunder has the best defense in the NBA, and if you looked at advanced statistics and other things that I don't always understand, supposedly we have a pretty solid pick-and-roll defense. The only thing is, when we play teams that have a really athletic forward, a four-man, or a center, then Steven Adams gets caught a lot. And it's the way we switch and the way that we defend it. It doesn't work well against teams like Atlanta, who have a really, really good second-year man in John Collins, who have I would not call Alex Len a super talented center by any means. He didn't even start the game, but obviously he had a really solid night. I'm a big fan of John Collins. He is, in my opinion, one of the best fours in the NBA, and he's only in his second year. Could be just because he's getting plenty of attention on a terrible team.
He did go 12 of 14, though.
But I'm just saying. So I think that's part of it. I think there's also the part of it that the Thunder is notorious for playing down to competition, just like they play up to competition. How did the arena look in Atlanta?
Meh.
It wasn't very full, was it?
Nah.
Which kind of blows my mind because they've got a solid young core, and I get that they're not good, but I'm looking down the roster here, and you've got, first off, John Collins and Trae Young. That's a solid duo right there. Taurean Prince, we talked about him last week. He's a guy that I like.
Don't forget about Vince Carter.
Of course, Vince Carter. And then...
who shot 50% from 3 on us.
And did you recognize any other names on that roster? Daniel Hamilton? He was with the Thunder last year. So it's good to see him getting a little bit of play time.
listen, you're not going to win games when you allow the other team to shoot 62%. It's just not going to happen.
And especially when they go almost 50% from three.
Thunder gave up 147 to the Spurs in overtime.
Yeah.
And 142 to the Hawks in regulation.
Well, and just looking at the overall stats, I mean, 36 assists. That's pretty baller. And it wasn't just like, I mean, Trae Young had 11, but looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different guys have at least 3. So Trae Young's got 11 assists, but then 5 other guys have 3 or more. That's just moving the ball around. Everybody's, being unselfish. Man, that's tough to see. Meanwhile, you've got the Thunder, who I feel like the starters did a solid job, it looks like, and the bench was just absolutely awful. Schroeder was 6 for 15. And I think, did he start hot or finish hot?
I think he started.
So, and that's kind of probably what he wanted, being back in Atlanta. And he had 21
Seemed
points.
like he was
that's
trying to
great,
do too much.
That happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, based on how Hami's been playing lately, might be time to reel his minutes back. And it makes me sad to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like ever since he sprained his ankle and he's come back, he's not been the same guy. And I don't know what – I don't think he's still hurt. I think maybe it's messed with his mindset, his
yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm no NBA athlete.
You don't say.
I'm no athlete, I might even say. But playing pickup basketball last summer, I sprained my ankle, and I'm still not confident on it. Now, I don't have NBA world-class trainers who have worked on me and got me back into shape, but guys cannot help but play with a sense of nervousness, I'm sure, when coming off of injuries like that. And I think maybe that might be his thing because he's a rookie. I don't know. But he hasn't really played all that well lately. We look back to the Lakers on Thursday. This is one of those games that Thunder came in as 10-point favorites at home. You definitely think you're going to win this one. Came out just on fire.
I didn't catch a lot of this one.
Okay, well then
I was working.
Allow me.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Thunder came out, and I believe they were up 27-13 through the first 9 or 10 minutes of the game. That's awesome. Pretty much what you want to see. And then the bench comes in and just has this like meltdown. And by the time the starters get back in, it's a 4-point game. And it's like that nice large lead was just wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely pathetic. Absolutely inexcusable. And from that point forward, it was a ball game. The Lakers outscored the Thunder 40-24 in the second quarter and took a lead into halftime.
Am I reading this right?
And then the Thunder comes out in the third quarter and they regain the lead and then tie game, overtime. Really, on a shot we got lucky on. But I'll come back to that. What were you talking about?
How does Russ go 7 for 30, but 5 of those 7 makes were from 3?
Well, here's the thing. The Thunder got crazy hot from 3 early. And at one point in the fourth quarter, they were 20 of 40. 50%. And as you can see, went 2 of 14 the rest of the way to finish the last couple minutes of regulation and then in overtime. Here's the thing. The Thunder got really good in one game at something they're not any good at,
mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden they thought they were really good at it.
Yeah.
And
it happens.
Here's the problem. I don't want the Thunder to be crazy good at three-point shooting right now because it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to get to mediocrity right now and live there for a little bit. And then over the next season or so, if we pick up some guys, you get where I'm going with this? The Thunder got lucky, I almost want to say, knocking down a ton of threes, and then all of a sudden they thought they were a three-point shooting team. They thought they were the Warriors, they thought they were the Rockets, and that's all they wanted to do. Whenever you're taking more than half of your shots from the three-point line, something you're not good at, there's a problem. I'm looking at other issues like free throw line. We shoot 15 more free throws than the other team, but only have 5 more makes. And it wasn't. And here's the thing: it wasn't crazy foul disparity. The Lakers had 2 more fouls. thing is, the Thunder gets fouled going to the rim a lot, they got fouled shooting threes a couple times. Now that I remember, including the final shot of the game, Russell Westbrook, of course, because he's got to shoot the game-winning three, puts up a shot and he gets quote-unquote fouled. It was not a foul on the shot. It was a foul. Should have been 2 free throws. So who knows what happens with the end of the game at that point? There were still a few seconds left in the game, but anyways, they call it a 3. Naturally, he knocks down all 3 because that's what Russell Westbrook does. He does what you do not expect him to do. He's not been a good free throw shooter all season, and he knocks down those 3, and then we go into overtime. And if I look at the box score for just overtime, here are the numbers. First off, starting 5 played the entire overtime, which I'm okay with. We were 2 of 13 from the field. Guess how many of those were threes?
6.
Close. 12. We took 1 shot that was not a 3. No free throws. It was a layup that who missed it? That Paul George missed. That's pathetic. Terrence Ferguson was 1 for 5 from 3, and I will say he was open on a lot of those. And it's disappointing because he was hot early. But once again, like I pointed out, if you're going to live by the 3, you're probably going to die from it. So before overtime, the dude was 5 of 7. And then he goes 1 for 5. Listen, that's called averages, law of averages. You fall back down to that. That's going to happen. When you're hot, listen, it's like gambling. You got to know when to get out. If you're up, you might want to consider running.
Got to know when to hold them. Know when to fold them.
And the Thunder folded them, okay, to say the least. Thunder Twitter was losing their minds.
Rightfully so, I think, in this case.
Listen, there's always cause for concern when you've lost 5 of 6. And that's where the Thunder was after this one. But let me tell you some things that I've seen over the last 2 weeks. Fire Billy Donovan. Trade Steven Adams. Trade Russell Westbrook. Bench Russell Westbrook. Trade anybody and everybody for anybody and everybody that we can get. Tank for Zion Williamson. I don't know what people are thinking.
There is only one thought that I feel like is a legitimate thought, and that's the coaching situation.
I disagree.
Look, Golden State had their struggles, okay? The Thunder started out struggling 0 for 4, right? Then they go on the run, go up to the top of the conference, and now they're struggling again. Other teams have had their one struggle, and then it seems like they're just rolling now. When you look at Golden State, look at Houston now, and then you look at the Thunder, and it's like
Houston is struggling.
Why they're winning?
Sometimes.
I just don't understand why the Thunder are like on a roller coaster right now when that shouldn't be happening. So what does that go to then?
Well, listen, I think that Billy Donovan deserves some of the blame, obviously, as a coach. But, and I go back to this, a coach can only do so much when it comes to encouraging guys to give more effort. Okay? Let's be honest. NBA coaches, their job, for the most part, is probably what? What would you say? If you had to put it into one box, what would you say?
I feel like you know what you want me to say here, but
if you don't know, well, here's what I'm thinking. A lot of times it's to manage the personalities, in my opinion. I feel like you got to keep.
It's not
guys
what I was
happy.
going to go with.
What were you going to go with?
No, I was going to go more into coaching. Like I was thinking more of that kind of thing.
I feel like there
rotations and.
I feel like there is an element of that. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think a lot of it is managing personalities. And I think the Thunder has more drama going on around the organization than we thought. Alex Abrines still isn't back. He's with the team right now on the road trip, so that's good. I think there's some issues that are going on that maybe not necessarily drama, but struggles. Listen, what is a coach supposed to do when his former MVP is having his worst shooting year, and it's not even close? It's awful. Dealing with injuries. The Thunder hasn't had a ton, but when the Thunder when teams get into a groove, it's because everybody's doing their part. As soon as you experience an injury, that guy can't do his part anymore, and it messes up everything. So when you think back to Terrence Ferguson got hurt for a little bit, Hami got hurt for a little bit, Nerlens Noel obviously was hurt for a little bit. Russell Westbrook, he was hurt, didn't have training camp, then he had to sit out several games after the season had gotten started. Little things like that. Now, as far as Billy Donovan's fault, definitely what I would blame him for would be the rotations, which is what you had mentioned. And I think he did an awful job against Los Angeles, and that was obvious. The bench was completely I'm looking at plus minuses, and sorry, that's the Hawks game. Let's get back over here. The bench is completely negative, and the starters are completely positive except for Jeremy Grant, who was a -2.
Here's the thing, though, is you can't just not play your bench.
That's
where the you know what I mean?
5 guys cannot play 48 minutes plus. I agree, but the thing is, he was doing 5 for 5 almost. You got to stagger guys, and that's what he did. I didn't see a lot of the game yesterday because I was once again coaching another game. But he staggered a lot more. I saw Russell Westbrook, Steven Adams, and Terrence Ferguson out there with 2 bench guys. I saw Paul George come in with bench guys. That kind of thing. I think that's super necessary. Schroeder once again, he had a pretty solid game. He was still not crazy negative. He was still negative. Plus minus. Listen, these are the numbers. These are for real numbers. Jeremy Grant was a plus 25. And he played 34 minutes, and that means in the 14 minutes that he was not on the floor, the Thunder was minus 23. And you know who replaced him in those 14 minutes?
Patrick Patterson.
Patrick Patterson. He did not play well. I don't get it. Steven Adams did not play well. He was a minus 16 in 30-something. You know who did play well? Nerlens Noel. He was plus 18. I'm not saying, and hear me out, I don't think Noel's better than Adams. And I thought Adams played pretty well. And obviously, Adams is playing against Joel Embiid.
Yeah, see, I think he had a bit of a different role in this one.
He did. And Noel's playing against, I don't even know who else they have.
Yeah.
But so that was kind of the exception there. But for the most part, the bench did a better job, Patrick Patterson aside, and the starters did their job, but they were staggered, and I think that played a key part. And that's going to have to be what Billy Donovan's doing moving forward. If he's not staggering guys, then I feel like the Thunder is definitely going to struggle. One of my friends, LJ, he commented on our stream over here. He said that the Thunder don't have a consistent identity, and I think that's become the truth as of late. The Thunder was so solid for so long because of defense.
Right.
And we look over these last 7 games, obviously won last night to go 2-5 through those 7, and the defense has simply not been there, and it's hard. So let's talk about that though. 5-5 in the last 10, 2-5 in the last 7. Whose fault is it? You say.
I'm still sticking with the defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going with specific. Okay, let's get more specific. Who? Who's not
collective team effort?
Okay, and that's fair. If one guy lets down, the whole thing breaks down. I think, and that's the thing. I can't even really pinpoint it on one guy. I think Steven Adams has struggled on rotations a lot. I think Russell Westbrook has kind of gotten lazy and lackadaisical, reverting back to some of his old past habits. Paul George hasn't been as effective at times as he has been. And Terrence Ferguson, he's still struggling with foul trouble sometimes, which kind of takes him out of the game. And I love Jeremy Grant, but once again, he's another one of those matchups like when you think about the Spurs. When he has to match up with LaMarcus Aldridge, that's a terrible matchup for him. He's just undersized and underpowered. So, I mean, you take a look at some of these games, and some of them are matchup issues, and some of them are just effort issues.
Yeah.
So I think
a lot of it is effort issues.
Yeah, I agree.
Because here's the thing: is defense is something you have to decide to do. Going out and shooting the ball is easy. It's fun.
I agree.
Playing defense isn't much fun. And doing it 82 games in a season, I'm sure it's not, hopping on a flight, flying to another state, getting there late, waking up, going to shoot around, then playing the game a few hours. I'm sure you don't always want to play defense.
Right.
And unfortunately, though, when your strong suit is defense, that's something you have to do. They did like a mic'd up with Paul George in the huddle yesterday during the game, and he was just talking defense. Look, we're going to be all over them. We're going to pressure them. We're going to, you know what I mean? We're going to be one step ahead of them on defense. And it happened. And so if the Thunder can just get that for, you know what I mean, every game, then yeah.
And the thing is, in coaching, I've learned this, that when a guy works really hard on defense and then he doesn't even touch the ball on offense, it's really hard to come down and want to keep playing defense. Yeah. And it's obvious in the games where Russell Westbrook and Paul George get everybody involved, everybody plays better defense. I just think that's genuinely true. And you can't just, most guys can't just be okay with being defensive guy. Andre Robertson, he knows his role. Terrence Ferguson, he's been, let's face it, he is emerging as an offensive piece to this Thunder team, and I could not be more thrilled about it. And I feel like Russell Westbrook's done a solid job at finding him. I think that's elevated his defense on the other end, and that kind of rings true for everybody. So it is a collective effort.
Yeah. Yesterday was a fun one, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, let's keep talking. Let's keep talking Thunder basketball.
Let's do it. That's what we're here for.
So question: is the bench good, or is the bench bad? What do you think?
I wouldn't say they're bad. I don't want to say they're good either.
Is that all you got? Because I got stats over here.
I would say, without looking at stats, I would say definitely inconsistent is the word, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like we rely heavily on one person off the bench, and that's Dennis Schroeder, of course. And so
if he plays well, the bench looks good.
Yeah, exactly. Like we could have 40 bench points, and that seems awesome, but he usually has like 25 of them. You know what I mean? So, which we'll still take that.
Did the bench play well, or did Schroeder play well? That's honestly probably a pretty good point. I hadn't thought about that. But here's just some numbers, and obviously, let's be very clear. I feel like the Thunder has arguably the best starting five in the NBA. I'm interested to see how DeMarcus Cousins transitions with the Thunder and how well he fits in. I thought he had a pretty good solid game back the other night. Had like 16 points and 6 rebounds in 15 minutes, and he fouled out.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I feel like if he can get 16 and 6 or something like that, then that's pretty solid for them, because he's coming off an Achilles injury. I don't know. Can't stand the guy because of what he chose to do. He sold his soul to go play for the Warriors, and that's how I feel about it. So, but as far as our bench goes, we are our bench compared to other benches. That's what this is. That's what these stats are against. 27th in scoring. They are ahead of the Warriors, the Pelicans, and the Rockets. So, once again, those are all solid starting fives.
Right.
So, I mean, that makes sense that because the starters do so much of the work, the bench doesn't do as much. 21st in plus minus, which doesn't sound terrible, except they are ahead of the 9 teams below them are the Raptors, the Kings, and 7 teams that are 8 games or more below 500. That's not good.
Yeah.
The bench is 28th in rebounding, 29th in assists, and 19th in steals. So for some comparison, here are the starters. Starters are 5th in scoring. Did you know that? That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
3rd in plus minus.
It's pretty solid.
1st in rebounding, 11th in assists, and 1st in steals. Now, need I remind you, overall, let me flip on over to the overall stats for the Thunder. I'm talking about meshing the whole team. Okay, so the starters are 5th overall in scoring, and the Thunder is 8th in the NBA. So that's pretty solid. Starters are, did I say 1st in rebounding? Yeah, 1st in rebounding, 3rd overall. Okay, I said 11th in assists. The starters are, and they are 23rd overall. Thunder 23rd overall as a team. Thunder starters are 1st in steals. The team is 1st in steals. Plus minus, the Thunder is 3rd. The starters are, and the team is 7th. Okay, and part of that has to do with a couple of terrible losses lately. So some of those numbers have, excuse me, some of those numbers have adjusted lately. First off, the Thunder no longer has the best defensive rating in the NBA. We've dropped to third. So I think that probably has something to do with that. Based on, honestly, these last couple weeks, I think that's where a big chunk of that has come from. So just disappointed in our bench, I guess you could say, just because I feel like the pieces are there. They just haven't. There's got to be chemistry,
right?
And I think staggering the starters, filtering in the bench guys, I think that's going to be the key to success moving forward. Like I said, I think Billy Donovan figured that out yesterday, and I hope that's the case moving forward.
We can hope, but we know lineups never stay consistent with Billy Donovan. So
I don't know, but moving forward, I mean, who knows? So. Getting a little bit off Thunder topic, but still NBA topic, I wanted to talk about this because I know I have a lot of things to say. Well, maybe not a lot, but I wanted to know what your thoughts are because I've talked about it with some people. NBA officials have decided to live tweet some games tomorrow, some games on Wednesday, so that they can interact with fans. Now, the question that naturally comes to mind is why? And I'm sure their answer is to improve the relationship between NBA officials and fans. Show me an NBA fan who enjoys NBA officiating, and I will show you somebody who needs therapy or medical attention of some sort. I feel like it's only gotten... I feel like the last few years it has been the worst that it's ever been in my 20 years of being an NBA fan. Now, obviously, as I get older, I understand rules better. And I'm not going to act like I'm not biased in some form or fashion for my team. But I feel like the more that I learn and understand about basketball, the more I realize that officiating is not as good as it could be. And I'm trying to figure out, what is this going to do?
Nothing.
Is it going to help anything?
No.
Do the last
create problems.
Do the last 2-minute reports do anything?
No.
Because here's the thing.
There's no accountability.
There's going to be a bad call at some point, and a fan's going to call it out. And what are the NBA officials going to do? They're going to try to explain it away. Yeah. And then that's just going to make fans even more angry. Yeah. It's not going to help anything. Now, I was talking about it with the head coach at the school that I'm an assistant for a varsity team, and he brought something up. Just interesting conspiracy theory. He thinks that the refs could be using this as a manipulative tactic to see who fans really care about in regards to how those players are officiated, so that they can adjust their officiating to better meet fans' desires.
Yeah, I can see that because I feel like to a sense that already kind of happens.
That was kind of what I said. You know who this now?
Because here's the thing, a perfect example is Draymond Green. He got that technical foul the other night. As soon as he got the technical foul, he started talking to the ref even more than he was before because he knew he wasn't going to get a second one. He knows he's not going to get thrown out of the game.
Well, I don't really think that's just him at that point. Here's the thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm just using that specific example because that just recently happened.
I agree.
Russ gets away with the same thing all the time too. Don't get me wrong.
And that's usually how it works. A guy gets a technical foul, a coach especially.
Right, because no one's going to a game to watch Russ get kicked out.
I've earned it. I earned one of them, so I'm going to make sure I get. And then usually they know where the line is, and it takes a lot to get that second one. Even after the fact, it takes a lot to get the second one. I say that. And then did you see Marcus Smart get ejected yesterday?
No, I didn't see that.
He got a second technical. They called double technicals, and his was his second, so he got thrown out. And the actual call on the technical, there was a jump ball, so they're getting ready to jump, and Marcus Smart's on the outside of the circle, getting ready to try to get a piece of it. And he and DeAndre Bembry are mouthing to each other. And it looks like they're just trash talking, hardcore trash talking, but not even touching each other, trash talking. And then there's a ref that's not very far away. He's getting ready to throw the ball. The other ref from way off in the distance comes running over, gives them double technicals, and then Marcus Smart kind of starts walking off, and then he runs after DeAndre Bembry like he's gonna go. And thankfully there were a bunch of people before him, but he was gonna go after him. So I don't know what was said, but what led to the second technical, I don't know what was going on, but it didn't on video. It didn't look like anything. So I don't know. Yeah. But I agree with you. Here's the thing. I feel like fans are pretty adamant that Russell Westbrook does not get calls that other guys get, especially when driving to the paint. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm biased, and I'm going to say that, but I feel like from an objective position, you cannot argue that he gets the same calls that, say, James Harden gets. Fair?
Yeah.
And obviously they're not the exact same player, but when one dude is averaging significantly more free throw attempts than another guy is, and they play very similarly in terms of their ability to attack the basket, I don't know. It just kind of it rubs me the wrong way. So are the refs going to listen to fans all of a sudden and be like, oh yeah, refs doesn't get calls, let's start giving them to him? If that happens, great. But I don't
my
know.
shoes. I want there to be some accountability. There's nothing.
There's
the last 2-minute report, but what does that do?
All that does is make fans mad.
They just admit that they missed the call and then nothing happens.
Sorry guys, we made a mistake.
I think the worst one this season by far was Kevin Durant when he threw the ball. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They still lost that game. But what did they do? They come out, oh yeah, we missed that. Okay, well then what?
Listen, if a player cannot even say a word about an official without getting fined, why are refs not being fined?
Exactly.
Listen, if I am so egregiously wrong in my job, I'm probably going to have some consequences of some sort. But these guys don't get suspended. They don't get, I mean, maybe they get a slap on the wrist, like a verbal reprimand.
The NFL fired a ref in the middle of the season this year.
That's never happened before. It's like they finally did something.
Right. But nothing happens to and I don't know if there's like a shortage of officials. Like, do we not have enough to rotate in? Like, could you not even, like, okay, you missed the call, so you got to sit this next one out?
Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't see this. I don't see this Twitter thing going down well. Yeah. I see a lot.
It's gonna be funny.
Oh, it's gonna be hilarious.
I'm gonna love it.
I'm praying that somebody has like a top tweets thread somewhere, or if I had the time, I would go digging for them. Maybe we can come up with a collection of some for next week's show. I don't know, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of good stuff in there, and I feel like some grown men might be in tears because of it.
Over it next show.
So, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. So, anyways, we didn't get to do your new segment last week, your Come On Man, but you've got a pretty solid one this week.
Had a solid one last week, too.
Well, you could talk about last week's, even though it's kind of out of date right now.
Yeah.
I think most people probably know about it by now.
We'll just focus on this week. So,
anyways, for those of you that are in the dark, last week he was going to talk about Enes Kanter murdering a bunch of burgers, acting like it was no big deal, and then being forced to... He missed a game?
He just missed practice.
He missed practice because of a stomach illness. And then he made a joke about it, about eating a salad, New Year, New Me, or something like that. But anyways, this week's... Come on, man! Let's hear it.
So a little bit of a backstory here. Last NBA season, I get a call from... It just says OKC Thunder on the... I don't know. Yeah. And so I answer it with some guy, and he told me that Steve Alford, who was the head coach of UCLA, and his son were coming in, and his son Bryce plays for the Oklahoma City Blue.
Quick word here, I want to interrupt. Steve Alford graduated from the high school that my wife graduated from in Indiana, in Newcastle, Indiana. A small town, big basketball school. They have the world's largest field house. They've got a little over 10,000 in seating. A high school.
That's crazy.
It's insane. So yeah, he graduated from there, and obviously went on to do a lot bigger things. But anyways, just thought that was interesting. So go ahead.
So they tell me that they're gonna come in and eat, and he wants to pay for it, and if I will help him out, he's gonna give me some Thunder tickets. And I was like, cool. So they come in, I pay for their meal with the card that the guy gave me on the phone. He sends me some Thunder tickets. I go to the game. It's awesome. So fast forward to a couple nights ago, they come in as a family, Bryce, Steve, his wife, the whole family, grandparents. There was like a group of 10 probably. And so they all order, and then at the end, Steve is there, and he's gonna pay. So it's kind of like an awkward silence, like as he's handing me the card, I'm swiping and all that stuff. So I'm trying to start some small talk. And so I go, hey man, how's coaching going at UCLA? And he's like, well, I got fired 2 weeks ago. And man, I'm like, I'm like, dude, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I had no idea. And he's like, no, it's cool. And I was like, honestly, man, like, I had no idea. I'm not trying to, like, I didn't want him to think that I knew, and I was like baiting him into that, you know? Like, I had no idea. I guess I should have done like some Googling before I asked the question. And like, I knew they had been struggling recently, but I didn't, figure he was gonna get fired.
Yeah.
And he goes on to say, no, it's good. I get to watch my son play now and get to follow him around. So, he ended up being cool about it, but it's definitely my most embarrassing moment working at Texadelphia.
That is amazing.
I guess in this case it's come on, Craig, but
come on, Craig. I'm sorry. I would have if I was an employee with you, I would have died.
It was so bad. So bad.
I bet just thinking about it makes you feel anxious.
Yeah,
because like I wonder if they're ever gonna come in again.
I'm sure, yeah.
Sure, like, they will, and then next time, what do? Bad joke. Hey, how's the coach? I don't know.
Oh man.
But anyways, when you texted me the story, I was cracking up, and I told my head coach at school, and before I even got the story going, he knew where it was going.
Really?
Yeah. And so he busts up laughing because he's like, I knew that's what you were gonna say. I knew that's where it was going.
It's just I wish I could like take the words and just like put them back in.
Anyways, last little bit to talk about before we scoot out of here. Let's take a look at the weekly forecast. Thunder has some tough games coming up. I feel like pretty easy Martin Luther King Jr. Day matchup tomorrow. It's an 11:30 a.m. tip-off, which is abnormal, but it's because they're doing a special slate of games for the day. It is in New York. It'll be cool to see Enes Kanter.
I guess.
Up against, I guess. Oh, yeah, I forgot. You don't like him, like, at all, which cracks me up. But anyways, we say this every week, and I feel like I shouldn't even say it.
Shouldn't.
But I'm going to go ahead and say it. It should be an easy win for the Thunder. I feel like that they played so much better yesterday against Philadelphia that they'll carry that over tomorrow. So I'm going to pick that one as a win. Then on Tuesday, coming home, playing Portland Trailblazers at home. That's going to be a tough match.
It's going to be a tough one. At least it's in Oklahoma City.
I do think because it is in Oklahoma City, that's going to help. I do think that playing early on Monday so they can fly back on Tuesday, or probably fly back on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Get back sooner helps, whereas the Blazers, they have to play in Utah tomorrow night.
Okay, so they have a back-to-back as well?
Yes, at 8 o'clock. So they will not be getting into Oklahoma City until, my guess would be 1 or 2, probably 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then a 7 o'clock tip. So I feel like the Thunder's got a pretty solid shot at that game. Obviously beat Portland in Portland. That was a huge win, one of the biggest wins of the season. And but the Trailblazers they're one of those teams that I feel like they can compete with just about anybody.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
They've won 2 in a row. Pretty handily defeated the Cavs, obviously, and the Pelicans.
Obviously.
But I don't know, man. So we'll just have to wait and see. Since they lost to the Thunder in Portland, the Blazers have gone 6-2.
Oh.
Whereas I'm pretty sure the Thunder.
Hey, real quick though. With the overtime loss to the Lakers, you officially lost your bold prediction.
I did. Shattered. I'm assuming it will be moving forward. But we'll see. And then Thursday, hosting the Pelicans. And Anthony Davis is out.
The
is
Pelican.
Right?
Just one.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah. Anthony Davis is out, yes.
What's he out for?
Ankle, maybe? He's out 1 to 2 weeks is what I saw.
Well, when is that? I mean, I wonder if he'll still sustained a left index finger sprain.
Oh.
That's interesting. And so he'll be out approximately 1 to 2 weeks. So probably not going to make it. I would assume he's going to be out. I guess it could happen, but probably not going to happen. So it says that they will reevaluate in 3 to 4 days and decide to see whether he needs to see a hand specialist. I'm assuming he's not going to play, which is disappointing in the fact that it was going to be cool to see him in action because we are getting to go to the game. Kudos to you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Those tickets, but I'm excited to get to go. And that brings us to next Sunday's game, which we will have a show before this game tips off. I'm assuming, maybe. We might have to talk about that. It's an early tip-off. It's 5 o'clock tip-off. I don't know if that's going to affect your work schedule or not.
Is it a home game?
It is a home game.
Yeah, probably going to have to.
So we may not be able to do our show on Sunday next week. That's fine. We'll work something out and get one going. But we play Milwaukee, the hottest team in the NBA, I would probably argue. If we take a look at the standings, they have the best percentage record in the East, but they're technically a half a game back from Toronto because Toronto has played 3 more games than they have. But still, they're incredibly well-rounded, even though Giannis is obviously the main guy. So I'm interested to see how that works. Look, I'm looking at the schedule this week, and I feel like I would be happy if we went 2-2, honestly, just because of how we've been playing lately. I think 3-1 is possible. I think 4-0 is almost out of the question. If we somehow go 4-0, we're going straight to the finals, baby. It's happening.
See you there.
If we go 0-4, we're missing the playoffs as like the 12th or 13th in the West. But who knows? We'll see what's going on here. I don't know. What's your take on it? Last thoughts. Final thoughts.
Same thing. 2-2 would be, I guess, adequate, but
that's kind of what we I feel like that's what we expect.
It is a tough schedule this week, so. But you know what? We've not done well on the easy schedules, so maybe now that we have a tough week, Thunder will play well. We'll see.
Yeah.
Could use it, that's for sure. We got some ground to gain in the division.
For sure. Still, what are we? 3rd in the West? Yeah. Tied for 3rd in the West. Slightly ahead of Portland only because they played 2 more games than we have. But anyways.
But we are 4 games back from them.
And 4.5 back from Golden State. But we're barely over half the season through, so we'll see what's going to happen. Regardless, thanks again for tuning in. Give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, give us a like on Facebook, YouTube's, all that kind of stuff, @TheThunderGuys. Thanks for tuning in, and till next week, Thunder up.